Campania in southern Italy, lying between Rome and Naples, we find the province of Caserta. An ancient land for a fascinating, unique trip. Art and culture. Breathtaking nature and landscapes. Sea and mountains. Timeless traditions. A variety of emotions that will lead us to discover what has always been known as Terra di Lavoro, from the name of its ancient inhabitants, the Leborini. The area of the province of Caserta stretches from the Tyrrhenian Sea to the mountainous Matese zone, situated in the heart of the region of Campania. It is striking for the variety of its landscapes, the uniqueness of its nature, and its densely populated cities rich with history. But also for the dishes of Caserta's culinary tradition, with their intense, genuine flavors. A simple, sincere cuisine, like the people who live in this province. And for its wines, noble and full-bodied, which enclose the fragrances of the territory. A veritable workshop of overlapping civilizations that have influenced the lifestyle, but also the landscape and the territory. In fact, the area is full of historic remnants of all ages. Inhabited since prehistoric times, it also owes its development and splendor to the numerous dominations which, down through the centuries, have left their mark on these lands. Caserta, Aversa, Capua, Teano, and the other center of the Casertano are living examples of how the Etruscans, Samnites, Romans, Lombards, and more recently Bourbons have made these places unique and interesting. We will also go down to the colorful depths of the Sea of Caserta. So let's start our trip through this vast Italian cultural wealth. The city of Caserta is situated in the Campanian plain, at the foot of Mount Tifata. Province's capital city was probably founded by the Lombards of Capua in the early 8th century. In 1544, its status was raised to that of a principality under the Acquaviva of Aragon, Counts of Caserta. It was later purchased by the Bourbons of Naples, who in 1750 started to build the wonderful Reggia, the royal palace, around which sprang up and developed the city Caserta, as we know it today. Inscribed on UNESCO's World Heritage List, the Royal Palace of Caserta is the most well-known and representative monument of the province. It was commissioned by King Charles III of Bourbon from Dutch-Italian architect Luigi van Vitelli. Work began in 1752 and was completed in 1780 under the supervision of Carlo van Vitelli, who took his father's place after his death. The majestic grand staircase leads directly to the piano nobile and the sumptuous royal apartments. Extremely luminous, the great central staircase is entirely carved out of a single block of marble. Two marble lions symbolize the strength of reason and weapons. The antechambers of the royal apartments are embellished with stucco work and frescoes. The throne room is the largest of the apartments. In the rooms are paintings by 18th century artists and Rococo and neoclassical furniture. Every room is richly decorated. The luxury of a lavish court. The Mars Room, with decorations illustrating episodes of the Iliad and celebrating military virtues. On the ground floor, the court theatre, the only room in the palace completed by Vanvitelli. But the true enchantment of the palace does not lie in its interior, but in the immense, majestic gardens designed by Vanvitelli. 120 hectares, almost 300 acres, and a central boulevard 3 kilometers long. It is so large that it's possible to visit only by carriage. This strip of basins and fountains, waterfalls and statues reaches such a level that it competes with the palace of the Sun King at Versailles. Nature and art come together in a view that has no equal anywhere in the world. Caserta Vecchia stands on the slopes of the Tifatini Mountains. The town's origins are still not certain today, but they could date back to the Caserta, meaning village of difficult access. The village, originally built over a pre-existing Roman village, suffered various dominations down through the years. Under the rule of the Swabians, the castle was built. Today, just one cylindrical tower remains. The cathedral dates from the year 1100. When, with the building of the royal palace, the center of all activities was shifted to around it. The inhabitants of the old town were forced to move to the plain. Testifying to Caserta Vecchia's splendid past are the cathedral, with its tough-faced facade, the bell tower, the remains of the castle, and the village streets. A royal site, the village of San Leuccio, was the location of a hunting lodge of the Counts Acquaviva of Caserta, known as the Palazzo del Belvedere, which has now been restored. The The high portal was the entrance to the spinning mill and the neighborhoods with the working class houses of the colony. At the top was placed a sculpture group with the Bourbon coat of arms in the center. Alongside the silk factory, the little church of San Ferdinando Re dominates the entire village from above. When the Bourbons of Naples purchased the properties of the Counts Acquaviva, Ferdinand IV restored the Belvedere Palace and Royal Hunting Lodge and built the silk factory. The community of the royal colony of San Leuccio was founded, based on a specific charter that set down laws and rules, which were valid for this community only. For example, the silk workers were assigned houses in the colony. They could receive free training, and the women received dowries from the king, so they could marry colony workers. Today, as in the past, the beautiful silk produced there is very much appreciated abroad as well. The world's powerful all agree. San Leuccio silks are the most prized. The Queen of England, the President of the United States, and Arab sheiks are some of the most well-known receivers of San Leuccio silk products. Maddaloni, along the Via Appia. A boundary wall built in the Opus Reticulatum style bears witness to the Roman conquests of this city, which was founded by the Oscans in the 7th century BC. In the plain stood the ancient city of Calatia. Of particular interest is the Civic Museum, whose collections also come from the necropolis of Calatia. Bronzes and pottery, splendid wood carvings of the 17th and 18th century sacred tradition. Among the materials from the Roman age are oil lamps and cinerary urns. The remains of spear tips and knives bear witness to the role of the military aristocracy present in Calatia. Household objects, vases and amphorae to hold liquids. In one room, all the devotion of the inhabitants of Maddaloni is revealed by the numerous votive offerings to St. Michael, the city's patron saint. The museum also holds paintings by Francesco Solimena and various types of pottery of the 18th century Maddalonese handicraft school. Valle di Maddaloni is the small, lovely centre overlooked by the Rocca, the fortress, the only remains of the 13th century fortification. The valley of the same name is a green dell crossed by the Appian Way. With those bridges connected to the Carolino Aqueduct, The architect Carlo Vanvitelli brought water to the royal palace of Caserta, its fountains and the industries of San Leuccio. An impressive and fascinating work. Valle di Maddaloni is also famous for the production of the Annurca apple, a sweet, flavorful variety. Picked while it is still green, it is ripened in what are called melai, lying on a bed of wood chips. We continue our trip through the province of Caserta. Cicero called the ancient Capua Altera Roma, the other Rome. Today it is Santa Maria Capua Vetere. The Campanian amphitheatre from the Augustan age is magnificent, the second in size after Rome's Colosseum. The four levels could hold up to 40,000 spectators. The Gladiator Museum contains the ornaments that indicated the fighting class. The Mithraeum dates from the 2nd to the 3rd century AD. On the rear wall can still be seen a fresco showing the god Mithras killing the bull. We arrive at a small landing place at a bend in the Volturno. The ancient Casilinum is the Capua of the domes, the ramparts and the green moat. The castle of Charles V, a splendid example of military architecture. This fortress was the defense structure inside the city. In 1943 it was heavily bombed. But thanks to the serious restoration work done, the castle, which was largely destroyed, has been returned to its original powerful splendor. Along its urban fabric, enclosed within the city walls, palaces, castles and churches make it possible to recognize the historic stratification, spanning from the Lombards to the Normans, from the Swabians to the Angevins. Capua, a famous and ancient metropolis of Campania, holds in its Campanian Museum important artistic and archaeological remains of the region. Rich collection of stone inscriptions with engravings of various kinds, funeral relics, and most of all, the most unique, rare and precious collection a museum can boast, the so-called collection of mothers. Tuff statues depicting seated female figures, holding one or more children in their arms, dating from various periods between the 6th and the 1st century BC. Found in an area where in ancient times a temple dedicated to motherhood stood, these mothers were votive offerings. The mosaics room holds decorative elements of various origins. They most probably belong to decorative cycles of civil or sacred buildings. The picture gallery holds a number of interesting works by Neapolitan school artists dating from the 13th to the 18th century. And polychrome wood sculptures dating from the 13th to the 16th century. Remarkable for both their artistic significance and their documentary value are the Renaissance sculptures, which include pieces by 16th century Neapolitan sculptors. The library of the Campanian Museum, one of the largest in southern Italy, holds over 70,000 parchments, books, leaflets, manuscripts, magazines, prints, and geographical maps. A counterpoint to the austere dress inherited from history is the Carnival of Capua, which is every bit as good as the more famous ones. But the Terra di Lavoro region is also a land of folklore, where sounds and movements merge in dances, expressing the strong bond with their roots. Between Caserta and Aversa stands the ancient city of Marcianise, whose territory was populated by Greeks, Samnites and Etruscans. Its cathedral is a fine example of Baroque art. Like the church of the Santissima Annunziata, the facade dates from the late 1700s. The interior is full of frescoes of the 17th and 18th century Neapolitan school by Massimo Stanzione and Francesco Solimena, among others. The ancient Atella, one of the most ancient and famous cities of Campania, was founded between the 10th and 5th century BC by the Oscans and soon became an important trade and culture crossroads. sanctuary of San Salvatore di Horta is a Franciscan center of spirituality. It boasts a pipe organ with 1,500 pipes dating from 1888. The walls of the adjacent Franciscan convent enclose a splendid cloister with a wonderful arcade, whose domical vaults are completely frescoed. The Church of San Massimo was built in the neoclassical style between 1860 and 1880. Inside, it has a very finely executed painting and several wooden statues. This is the province's second city. Of Norman origin, Aversa borders on the province of Naples. A city rich with 17th century churches and monasteries, its ancient districts are a maze of alleyways, a succession of widenings and squares, overlooked by monumental buildings. A work of extreme elegance is the dome of the San Paolo Cathedral. Dating from 1053, it dominates Piazza Duomo and reveals the influence Arabs and Normans had on these lands. The majestic high altar was created on a design by Vanvitelli. The Norman Aversa is a center for the production of delicious buffalo mozzarella, an ambassadress in the world of the authentic flavors of these lands. Basic ingredient of pizza. It's a pride of Campania and the province of Caserta. The first information on Casal di Principe dates from the times of the Oscan civilization. The Santissimo Salvatore Church dates from the 16th century. Inside, it has a wooden crucifix of the 18th century Neapolitan school. And a panel depicting the Madonna dating from 1725. In the area between Castel di Principe, Aversa and Orta di Atella, the famous Asprigno, an intense dry wine that is the perfect accompaniment for mozzarella. Along the Via Latina, 14 kilometers north of Capua, we cross almost without realizing it the territory of the ancient and glorious town of Cales. An area of 64 hectares, almost 160 acres, in the municipality of Calvi Risorta. On the archaeological area are visible traces of the ancient Roman colony of Cales. There is still so much to be uncovered. The central baths, after the more recent baths of Mercury at Baia, are the largest, most magnificent Republican bath complex known up to now. Cales, with its ground scattered with pottery shards from the Bronze Age, with its foundations of huts dating from the 10th century BC, is one of the archaeological prides of Campania. The nearby Via Latina, also called Via Casilina, owes its fortune to the abandonment of the Via Appia and the uninterrupted flow of pilgrims who travelled it in various periods on their way to Cassino, and also to the Holy Land. A short distance from Calvi Risorta we find the ancient Francolise. The massive 13th century crenellated castle is the symbol of the transfer of the fief of the Francolise from Charles I of Anjou to Simon de Montfort, Count of Avellino. Examples of the splendours of the late Republican period are the two villas, that of San Rocco and that so-called Del Posto. The San Rocco villa was a residence for the wealthy with a large peristyle, over 30 rooms plus cisterns, corridors, baths and 2 saunas. Other rooms were arranged around 2 courtyards, where there were basins for separating olive oil, an oil press and a kiln for baking bricks. The Villa del Posto was a rustic home with 8 rooms, a well in the courtyard for storing water, and various storerooms for separating olive oil. Riardo is a small village of Roman origin nestled amidst the vegetation. Going along its streets amidst ancient houses, narrow alleys and completely restored porticos, we arrive at the gardens of the Lombard castle. Continuing down toward the valley, we reach the chapel called Madonna della Stella, which holds some important Byzantine frescoes. This is the gateway to Campania, a crossroads by vocation, a meeting place at the foot of the volcano. And Teano, the site of the historic meeting between Victor Emmanuel II and Giuseppe Garibaldi. The ancient capital of the Samnites, considered by Strabo to be the most important town on the Via Latina, with great public buildings such as the amphitheatre, the theatre and the baths, of which a number of fine ruins still remain. The Roman theatre of Teano from the late Hellenistic age. From a later period are the external ambulacra and the stage building. Teano also had an amphitheatre of considerable proportions, of which, however, there are no remains. The lava stones of the houses, which come directly from the nearby volcano, merge with the stones forming a monumental section of the pre-Roman walls, on which rests the Loggione, a singular 14th century building with an enormous pointed arch. Roman age marbles decorate the Romanesque bell tower of the cathedral, dating from 1116 and dedicated to St. Clement. The interior is embellished with a wonderful marble pulpit. The crypt of St. Paris holds a collection of Roman, medieval and modern marble pieces. The monastery of St. Catherine keeps alive a female monastic tradition that has existed in Teano for more than 12 centuries. Inaccessible and mysterious, it conceals a beautiful little church with a monastic choir made entirely of inlaid wood. Teano is also the home of another centuries-old art, copper working. A tradition that is jealously passed down from generation to generation. Almost at the entrance into Campania, along the Via Appia, is Sessa Aurunca, the ancient Suessa. The ruins of the 5,000-seat Roman theatre from the 1st century BC are surrounded by a magnificent cryptoporticus and by ancient baths. The Baroque Annunziata Church stands at the edge of the medieval village. The interior, on a Greek cross plan, is enriched with Baroque altars in polychrome marbles, a wooden chancel and a choir. The towers of the ducal castle stand over the historic centre, dominating the majolica-faced domes of churches and chapels. Built by the Counts Marzano during the Lombard period over the ruins of a Roman building, it was enlarged by the Swabians. Inside it houses the Al Castello Museum, with collections of finds from the necropolises, temples and Roman villas of the ancient Suessa. Amphorae, dishes, pitchers, statues and friezes bear witness to the passage of numerous civilizations during the various periods. The lovely Sessa Aurunca is a chest full of treasures waiting to be discovered. Like the Cathedral of St. Peter, an admirable example of Romanesque architecture dating from the 12th century. It was built with materials coming from the temples of Mercury and Hercules, and from the theatre. There are elegant 18th century stuccos over the arches of the interior with its nave and 2 aisles, and they blend in with the simplicity of the Romanesque structure. The impressive pulpit features lively depictions of animals alongside geometric figures. Below the painting of the Madonna with Child decorating the altar, one's glance cannot leave the floor. An extraordinary carpet of mosaics with geometric motifs of Arab influence. In the Baroque chapel of the Sacrament is kept the Communion of the Apostles by Luca Giordano. And if prayer alone is not sufficient to obtain the desired results, to ingratiate oneself with good fortune, there are the centuries-old dances and folk songs. We are now moving inland. We are in Rocco Monfina, at the foot of the volcano by the same name. The historic center, rich with art and history, is dominated by the sanctuary of Santa Maria Santissima dei Latani, dating from the 15th century. Erected by 2 saints, Bernardino of Siena and James of the Marches, the sacred building, solitary and silent, is nestled amidst the vegetation. Lovely cloister, the arabesque vaults and the arches supported by smooth octagonal and spiral columns. A chapel with an enchanting frescoed dome holds a statue of the Madonna with Child, an object of worship and veneration. Carved out of basalt, it dates from the 9th to 11th century. The volcano, which has been inactive for ages, has the merit of having created an extraordinarily fertile surrounding soil. The cradle of the prized primitive chestnuts, flavorful chestnuts for roasting over a fire. We are leaving this oasis of peace to reach another important center of the province. The richness and variety of the Terra di Lavoro can be seen on its coastline too. Mondragone was the hunting reserve of the Bourbons. A medieval town on the site of the ancient Sinuessa, the past has left its marks along the little streets of the historic centre and the street leading to the sea. Amphorae, utensils and coins are on view in the museum, bearing witness to the passage of both soldiers and merchants. More inland, the countryside is rich with vegetables, olive trees and vineyards. This is the Ager Falernus of the ancient Romans, whose main product was wine, the renowned Falerno, which has been replanted successfully today. The beach at Baia Domizia is the coast par excellence of the province of Caserta. The mountains in the background are snow-capped in the winter, and they are reflected in the crystal clear water. Fine beaches as far as the eye can see, and off in the background is Capri, sealing the magic. We are to the northwest of Naples, at Baia Domizia. The seabeds are rich with life. The mountains of the Matese, with peaks reaching 200 meters, are the gateway to the southern Apennines. The gem of this collection of natural beauties is the Matese Regional Park, the entrance to which is precisely in Piedmonte Matese. With its wealth of art, it's the starting point for excursions. Between Bocca di Selva and Gallo Matese, set between insurmountable walls of rock, sits Lake Matese. There are numerous ideal paths offering the enjoyment of walking in the tracks of history. But let's continue our trip amidst the mountains of Matese. We reach Castello Matese, a town that was fortified in Norman times, a fief of the d'Aquino and Aragons. The village clings to a hill between the Inferno and Rivo valleys, while ruins of megalithic walls are wedged into the rock of Mount Chila. The smaller of the two medieval towers still has its original battlement. The fortress was built during the Norman rule. The Church of St. Augustine, a former convent of the barefoot Augustinian fathers. The vault and the nave are rich with frescoes. Lettino is the highest town in Campania, 1,050 meters above sea level, in the heart of the Matese Park. A cluster of houses facing onto the lake of the same name. The work tools, utensils for everyday living. Here everything is made by the skillful hands of craftsmen, from wool products to the unique tastes of the peasant dishes. Not far from the town are the caves of Lete, a popular destination for excursionists and speleologists. Ancient stone houses, typical of the entire park area. This is Gallo Matese, a town nestled among majestic mountains. The Palazzo dei Signori di Boggiano, built in the 18th century, is a solid building made of limestone. The Church of St. Francis, known as the Church of Ave Gratia Plena, is a protagonist in the urban scene of the little town. It has a lovely facade with an 18th century portal in a late Baroque style, over which is situated a window shaped like a violin. During the restoration work on the floor, workers found traces of the foundations of a votive chapel of previous age. Gioia Sanitica. The normal castle dominates the statue of the Winged Victory, decorating Piazza Municipio. The town is embellished with the Baroque church of St. Felix Martyr, dating from 1525, with 3 stone portals in its facade. The pulpit is made of wood. Each altar has a statue. Each corner has a fresco. Lastly, we go back towards Caserta and finish our trip, discovering these fascinating places rich with history, culture and flavors. Caserta and its province. A path through history, art and nature.